never get tired because energy comes from inside. And I'm very
Mm-hmm.
calm. I get a big project, I don't get excited. I lose a big project, I'm not depressed. I'm always what we call in Sanskrit samatvam, equanimity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always there.
Welcome to 1983 with Madhur Duggar. I absolutely love this Indian entrepreneur's journey. I love the man. This is a journey that will resonate with every person who has landed on the shores of the United States with huge courage, big dreams, and no money or plan for how to go about getting there. He does that all on the way. He fights, he figures it out, he keeps the faith. Nagesh Nama, CEO of XLM, is a serial entrepreneur who is leading the charge in applying one of the most exciting developments in AI technology, large action models, to help clinical trials in the life science industry run more efficiently. That industry in the US is estimated at $25 billion, and Nagesh and XLM are right in there with them. Nagesh has grown XLM from scratch to $4 million in revenue in 2024, and he is just getting started. Nagesh, welcome to the show. Nagesh, there's so much to talk about, but let's just start with LAMs. What are LAMs? And in the world of AI models, why are they the next big step?
Madhur, LAM stands for Large Action Models. And everybody has heard of LLMs, which is large language models, right? That is the engine, the AI engine that's helping us through this new revolution that I started maybe 18 months ago. So now, in my opinion, or in the opinion of many people, 2023 was the year of LLMs because ChatGPT came into existence just
Yeah.
before 2023, and people think LAMs will be the year 2024 will be the year of LAMs. So what does that really mean? LLMs, you communicate with them with a chat interface. You ask a question, it responds, right? You can ask complex questions, simple questions, it
Yeah.
responds, but it doesn't take any action on its own, right? It
Mm-hmm.
just responds. It's left to you to take action, the human to take
Mm-hmm.
action.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's assume that you can replace the human being with another agent, right? Which
Right.
will take, which will maybe ask the question, get the response, but do
Yeah.
something with it.
Yeah.
And whenever it needs clarification or needs some knowledge, it questions the LLM. So it
Yeah.
gets that big information, meaning the big human being or a digital human sitting behind called the LLM.
Right.
This guy is a doer, but he needs
Mm-hmm.
guidance. He needs guidance or she needs guidance. So she will go ask LLM, get the information,
Yeah.
but take some action. Simple thing will be Rabbit R1.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a device like a phone or a
Mm-hmm.
digital assistant, you
Mm-hmm.
want to book a ticket, you just tell it that I want to book a ticket. It'll log into maybe Expedia or one of the websites, does all the planning for you based on your simple instruction, and goes about doing it. So in a nutshell, that's what LLMs is all about.
Okay. Yeah.
Very simplistically talking.
Yeah. And so this is interesting. So you have obviously the applications for this are tremendous. I can easily see this becoming the next wave and being applied across a whole series of things. You have chosen to apply this in the life sciences space in the area of clinical testing, right? So tell us a little bit about again at a high level what that really entails. What was the challenge that is in this critical trials in space, and like how do you solve that?
This is a very interesting challenge that was presented to us by one of our larger customers, that is Viva. And within CDMS or Clinical Data Management System, there is EDC, that is electronic data capture. So it's a segment within CDMS where the investigator sites, they have to follow the protocol for the clinical trial. So every patient visit, they have to do something, right? So they do
Mm-hmm.
that and document that in this EDC. There could be adverse events, there could be a lot of other things. They might have some queries. All that is managed by this EDC. So instead of using paper, in the olden days, they would actually fax hard copies. That was the
Right.
olden days. Now it's all digital. So the investigators will enter the data directly into this website,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the EDC. To build that interface, right? It is very custom for every study,
Right.
and study setup typically takes 3, 4, maybe even 6 weeks to set up the study from go to finish all the configuration. So you're
I see.
ready to implement the CDMS slash
6 to 8
EDC
weeks it just takes to even set up the study.
therapy
Yeah.
study. Typically,
Right. Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
So part of that is to when they enter data or when some data validation has to be done in the interface, they have to do what's called as they have to script it. It's like JavaScript. In
Mm-hmm.
Viva, it is their own language like
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody take that English description provided by the customer or the study
Mm-hmm.
owner, and
Mm-hmm.
they will transform that into their own scripting language, put it into the
Mm-hmm.
software, test it. It sounds simple, but these workflows and the screens are pretty complex. To test 1,000 rules, for example, a typical study will have 1,000 rules.
1,000 rules. Okay.
Yeah. So it will take development time, testing time, and reconfiguration time. So all the iterations take 3 weeks.
I see.
So our customer was interested in, can the LLMs or LAMs take the English description and generate the script, the code?
Okay.
Step one. Step two, can we put that into their software after it's generated and validate that it's working right? That is test automation, which we've been doing for many years. So we had to do this to show them that just give us English description, boom, you get the code, minutes, maybe half an hour, you get the code, and then our agent will take that code, put it into the system, and figure out how to navigate to actually trigger that code, navigate through those screens, test the script, pass or fail, give them a PDF saying that this is what I did, this is the result. Everything should be GXP compliant to meet the FDA guidelines,
I
and
see.
that's the problem, and that's what we're working on. The first piece is done, where we know that the LLMs can give us the script. Now we
Mm-hmm.
are doing the other pieces to make it work. But this is one small
Yeah.
opportunity within this
Yeah.
big clinical trial space. But like
Right.
that, you have many opportunities in which is manufacturing, L,
Yeah.
which is laboratory, GMP, GLP. So
I
you
see.
have many opportunities. I'm talking about billions of dollars. That total addressable market should be in billions. I don't even know how many billion, but
Right.
it, it's in billions. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is really incredible here is that this is something which is such critical importance to get right in the clinical trial space. I mean, this is not an area where, you might be trying out something using AI in marketing, and if it works, it's fine. And if it doesn't work, well, you just move on to the next thing. I mean, you really need to get this right. Really need to get this to be regulatory compliant. The less manual intervention you can do, I think you reduce over time the chances of getting things wrong, right? Because you're just going to get really efficient at doing it. Isn't that right, Nagesh?
Madhur, you hit nail on the head. I'll present the current scenario, so then I'll compare it to what the
Yeah.
future might or the near future might look like.
Yeah.
So once the study setup begins, 2 or 3 analysts will are involved in the study setup. They know the software very well. They're highly trained. These clinical trials are very complicated. They know everything
Right.
about the software. They know everything about the clinical trial setup, study setup. So it's a very specialized area, and
Mm-hmm.
they will help their customers or whoever the study owner is set up these studies, test it. Then the owner will take over and they will conduct the clinical trial. That is just the beginning, right? Of course,
Right.
changes happen as they progress through the study. Maybe the software has to configuration may have to
Mm-hmm.
change. Studies
Mm-hmm.
take 3, 4 years sometimes. So it's
Wow.
not like a few weeks kind of a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
now with this LAM, within let's say 2, 3 hours, we can take the scripts and write the scripts, test the scripts, and give them the evidence for FDA guidelines that whether it's pass or fail. Worst case, let's say it even takes a day, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
good. But the
Yeah.
best part is if they change their mind, if they want to tweak the results, they
Yeah.
can tweak it. We can repeat the whole thing, boom, again.
Right.
Within few hours, we get the answer back to them. So
Right.
regression testing becomes easier, changes
Mm-hmm.
becomes easier. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, end-to-end automation.
Mm-hmm.
Since we are in the validation business, we know what we need to do for software validation. So
Yeah.
that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Whatever LAM we decide, there will be a
Yeah.
validation agent that will do
Yeah.
the validation also.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. But obviously, this is a new field, right?
Yeah.
So there'll be some climbing to do,
Yeah.
and it will definitely happen in 2024.
Yeah. And I think that's really healthy. I mean, that climbing is really healthy because I think that's what is required in any of these products to get to an efficient product, is that initial learning process, which requires that climbing, right? And you have a tremendous history in controls and testing and validation. I think you've spent pretty much most, if not your entire career in that space in some form or the other. So it's really sensible, I think, that it's someone with your background who is now leading the charge and sort of automating this using the LAM models, which is absolutely incredible. So you mentioned the fact that this is a clinical trial space. It is one small subset. The actual addressable market could be in the billions of dollars. I would guess, just based on my experience, the actual addressable market in this space is going to be in the tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. So that's an incredible space. What type of clients are you working with today in the clinical trial space? And can you elaborate a little bit on sort of like relative to today, where do you think your firm would be if it continued to do this work in over a 5-year horizon?
Step one, we are working like I said with our customer Viva to do this thing. So after that, we can go to their customers. That's every pharma company in the world, right? We can cater to them, right? And also we can go to other vendors of EDC like Oracle or anybody else, to do the same thing, because we'll have a validated solution. Very niche market. LAM is a new market or a new space. In that, a validated LAM is even very small. Nobody even knows how to validate it, right? So we are in a very good position there. That's just the clinical trials. The other areas within clinical trials, like data cleanup, data extraction, data loading, simulating as the data analysis. So there are many steps that we can handle when there's large amounts of data, but we need to do this step by step fast, and give them the confidence that it is done right. So that's just clinical trials. Manufacturing, as you know, same thing, right? You're making a product that goes into humans, meaning it's highly critical. So any change is a big deal. So to manage any change in a manufacturing facility, there's a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of testing involved.
Yeah.
Whether it's a manufacturing line, whether it's a laboratory procedure, whether it's a paper, like just the paper process that has to be, a change has to undergo. So there's a lot of testing that has to happen. Just to give an example, a simple risk assessment in a large pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, it should not take that long, but takes sometimes hours, sometimes even days, with a lot of round trips between various SMEs, the quality personnel, and all that. So let's say they do 1,000 changes in a year. So every change has to go through a risk assessment process, which sounds simple, but it adds up, right? It could be millions of dollars just to manage that one small process within a large manufacturing facility. Let's say we are working on that. Let's say that we can design an agent, what we call DAM, a document action model, which is basically a LAM, and it specifically caters to automation of documents, where it's intelligent, it can think, it can access various data resources, present the analysis based on some preliminary information by the SME, and any further questions it'll ask. If it is missing something, within minutes gives you a Word document with all the risk assessment done. So what should take hours or days is done in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So that's just the opportunity, one small opportunity within this big space called manufacturing. Like that, I can talk about thousands of opportunities there just in the manufacturing process. Similarly in the laboratory process, where you extract data from various lab instruments, you have to do some massaging, analysis, present it, document it. A lot of workflows are there. We can eliminate a lot of the analyst work by designing specific agents to do certain analysis or archiving. Another simple example: no matter with a GCP, GLP, or GMP, documents are still signed using paper. You must be thinking, well, how come you're doing that in 2023, right? Or 2024? But people still use paper. And what the quality people do is, you didn't sign here, you didn't scratch out this properly. And there are highly paid quality people looking at such things. If I design a document review agent or a document review model where a scanned copy, a PDF copy is presented to it, it can do computer vision and figure out all the differences, and give it to the quality guy, say, hey, these are the problems, do something about it. You know what? That's been tremendous. That itself can save maybe say a few billion for the industry. It's all simple things, but this needs automation. This needs agents to do, or co-pilots to execute.
No, that's absolutely true. And you mentioned manufacturing, obviously such a huge sector, life sciences, healthcare, huge sectors. I think finance has so many critical models that are continuously being used, and they have huge teams of people validating these models. I mean, I think that the same concept would apply there as well. So, the insights that you're going to get out of this can really translate over to many different spaces, right?
Yep.
How did you first come up with the idea of using LAMs for testing at XLM? How did this
Yeah, just a
happen?
quick background, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I started valuation in 1996, developing control systems, building software. The journey went on, moved from process automation to IT, labs, clinical trials, validation, compliance, many services. Everything focused on technology compliance, what I call technology compliance.
Right.
Then when cloud came into being around 2012, 2013, it was
Mm-hmm.
just being born. And I was thinking, what will happen if life sciences will adopt cloud? How
I
will that
see.
look? How
Right.
everything is software. There's no hardware concept.
Yeah.
Infrastructure itself is a software defined infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So everything is software defined. So how can I probably automate this? I always want to automate things, to
Mm-hmm.
increase efficiencies. That way I can provide a better service, right, with the less number of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and repeatability is always there, 100% regression and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea stuck in me to create this test automation for pharma or GXP in around 2011, 2012. I thought about it, and 2015, I incorporated a new company called XLM. And 2016, we launched our service to automate software testing, which many people have done, but I have to
Yeah.
adopt that to our this GXP space. So that took us 2, 3 years to make it work nicely. So you push a button, it can do all the testing. The agent can do all the testing, or the pipeline can execute, do all the testing, take screenshots, give you a report. That has been cracked by us. So now what we are doing is embedding agents. So meaning AI into these processes. So we've been thinking for the last 2, 3 years, can we use computer vision? The reason is software keeps changing, especially in the cloud. For me to keep changing the test scripts because the software has changed, it's a very human intensive process.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to cut down on that, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
my software can become kind of self-healing. Even if there's small, massive changes, you can't do anything, right? I mean,
Right.
human
Yeah.
has to get
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's say it's 10% change, 5% change, 15% change.
Which happens
Yeah,
often. Little
very
changes.
often
Yeah.
up and all that. Can this be like, self-healing? At least let me know these are the changes that happened. Maybe adjust it on its own. That has also been done. If you look at, there are many products out there using machine learning algorithms, computer vision. But when LLMs came, we were also investigating it. We did some research there, but we were not happy with the results we were getting. So also our bandwidth also is limited, right? We can't put too much. But when
Yeah.
LLMs came into being, I was thinking now is the time for me to think about how we can use. So we started again dabbling with looking into how we can modify our own framework, the next gen, build the next gen. And the many work that has been in this, it's just not Rabbit R1. If you look back, for example, NVIDIA has done this for quite some time, where they have developed agents that can think like human and play games.
I
But
see.
that was for a very specific area. It was before LLMs, but this was just using an AI model. They were doing all this. So you can look it up. OpenAI has done before ChatGPT. They have done a lot of work in this area. So the idea was that when you log into a website, the agent should use computer vision, can understand what the screen is, have some knowledge, or navigate on its own, for example, just like a human does. Click here, do this, do that. Like that's how we learn software, right? We click here, we do it. All that has been done. So I was just researching on all this. I said now is the time because maybe we should put a little bit more effort into um, building an agent-based computer validation or computer testing framework.
Yeah.
So that's why my ideas then, and timing was correct because LAM, people started doing a lot more research in open source also. We're using
Yeah.
LAM. Rabbit R1 is just an example. There are
Yeah.
many other examples. And now even you have agents where you can take control of your computer and you can use a small device to talk to your computer. Meaning you could be away from your computer. You can tell the
Right.
agent, check my email, or send that guy an invoice, pick this file. Those things are becoming commonplace, meaning it will
Yeah.
become commonplace, but
Yeah.
companies are doing it. So that gave me the motivation. We've been working on this seriously for the last 6 to 8 months. I've assembled a team of engineers, what I call
Okay.
continuous labs. That is the name of our R&D arm. And so now we know that looking at, for example, Web Voyager, looking at these are open source frameworks, or for
Okay.
example, Laveg, there are many, many open source, very sophisticated, very powerful open source models. We are ripping it apart to understand how they're doing it, what's the technology, and
Okay.
every single piece will not work for us, but we are kind of seeing how we can place the puzzle so it will work for us. Just to give an example, my vision for this year is, let's say you give it the requirements for the software, no test cases, nothing. You just give the requirements. My agent should take the requirements, tell me what test cases it will do based on the requirements, right? Of course, it has to assess the software, it has the requirements, and further break it down into steps, sub steps, exactly, or log in here, do this kind of a sub steps, then convert that into a BDD language, which is Gherkin's model. That's what we use internally to drive our test automation. Give me that. If that can happen, then from that point on, we already have the technology to drive the browser or whatever to automate it. And the reporting is already there, pipeline's already there. So all we have to figure out is, if you give me the requirements, can the agent give me the test script in the feature file or the Gherkin's model? Then we are all set. So we are this close.
So just automating even the script, automating the script based on written requirements,
Correct.
which then is then implemented to actually test the software. That is sort of where you want to be by the end of this year, right?
So right now, typically my quality personnel will interact with the customer. They
Yeah.
take the requirements, they
Yeah.
export the software, and they write the feature files manually.
Okay.
Now I want to completely automate that. The requirements is given by my customer, or we write the requirements. My quality people will write the requirements. That's it. From there, agent one will take that, create the test steps, and agent two will write that in the Gherkin's model, and
Right.
agent three will do the actual testing. So
Right.
that's how I see it. I mean, that could be so. And also one more thing is, when
Yeah.
we drive the browser, we need to figure out where the how the layout is done, and by taking control of the browser and understanding the object model, like each object has like an ID and things like that. So this agent will be able to figure out that on the fly. There is no, don't have to figure it out ahead of time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. I mean, what really fascinated me about your career is that, actually, from an education standpoint, you don't have this background. Your background is actually in manufacturing engineering, right? It has got nothing to do with large language models or natural language processing models. And so when I think about you, the person, I mean, I see two incredible steps. One is this intellectual step of moving from what was a very different educational background to a completely different field, which also requires very intense knowledge of the technical requirements of that field. It's not like you move from there to do management and therefore you require software skills. No, you require that, but you also require very technical skills on the NLP side. So that's something. And then the other piece of it was, you started off with a job and very quickly switched over to an entrepreneurial journey, right? And those were two big steps, which you kind of took at the same time.
That's correct.
And I think that takes a lot of guts, and you did that very early in your life. Tell me a little bit about how this happens.
I'm glad you pointed out that not many people would have done the analysis and kind of understand how that happened in my life, right?
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. My background is manufacturing. I have a master's in manufacturing engineering. That's nothing to do with what I'm doing today. And obviously, I jumped into entrepreneurship at a very early stage. So first 4 years out of UMass, I did some work for a consulting firm in Boston. Then I started my own company. Then even my first step to validation, I wrote the code that actually ran the machines. Nobody ever taught me that.
You wrote the code. And this is
Yeah,
back when, Nagesh? What year are we talking about?
1996.
1996.
And
This is
yeah,
not, but just so that our audience realizes, right? This is not today's time where you can Google almost anything up and come up with things, right? This is a
no,
completely different world.
yep. And also, if you remember, laptops were like, this heavy,
Yeah.
10 kgs or maybe, 10 pounds or something like that. So that's how but everything was self-learned. So I
Mm-hmm.
was, even my first project, I did a water system. They ripped out the relay-based logic, because there was no PLC or a logic controller. They were using hardwired relays to control the water system for a pharmaceutical application. So they had to rip that out and put a new controller in. And my job was to write the code and design the screens and make it work. So that was my first project, so that's
Wow.
how I started. But I picked up things very fast, and
Yeah.
I was able to do it for actual enterprises. I'm not talking about small companies. These are
Right.
big enterprises
Wow.
I was able to do.
You
Yeah.
okay?
So, and slowly I started, thinking about how I can automate things, how I can get into the software world. Software always fascinated me.
Uh-huh.
So that fascination is what made me learn faster and do things which my education did not give me the background. But that's always the case, right? It just gives you a foundation to learn,
Yeah.
and you build on it. Yeah.
I mean, what are therefore, the foundational skills, that you need as a person to do this journey? It's a lot of intellectual curiosity, self-belief, think, courage, support probably from your family. Tell us a little bit about that.
All that, the last one you mentioned,
Yeah.
if your better half or your other half can support you, I mean that's everything.
Yeah.
And in my case, both are engineers. I have masters in engineering. My wife has masters in engineering, but she went on to get an MBA. But I stopped and started the company, and I started doing things, and we worked together for some time. And then she did something slightly different. But the idea is that family support, more than the family support is important. Your spouse,
Yeah.
she or he is number one, because they take a brunt of it, right? You putting in
Mm-hmm.
16, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's, if they are not on the same platform, like I can't be worried about my relationship with my wife and
Yeah.
also
Right.
my relationship with my customers, my company,
Yeah.
my employees.
Yeah.
You just don't have the bandwidth.
Just doesn't work.
The-
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And the thing is, if you can start when you're young, because sometimes you're young and stupid, you take
Yeah.
risk without looking at 10 years
Yeah.
to 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that bravery is needed, the courage is
Mm-hmm.
needed to get it off. After that, the wind will blow, and you
Mm-hmm.
just have to have the confidence. But look
Mm-hmm.
out for opportunities. You
Mm-hmm.
should never say no when you're an entrepreneur. I cannot do it. You need to
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way to figure out that and get good
Mm-hmm.
at it immediately. You don't have much
Mm-hmm.
time. Project
Mm-hmm.
one, you have to deliver. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
project one you fail or a project two. There's no chance of failure. You have to do
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
that's that's incredible. So, being able to be resilient to stress and actually using it to improve yourself without
yeah,
backing off, right? And then that produces an incredible amount of confidence, which then like surges you forward even more. That's
I
that's
agree.
so that's so critical, I think, in your story and
Yeah.
probably in the story of successful entrepreneurs.
And also learning simple things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
setting up your network, setting up your phone systems, accounting, legal, reading the
Right.
contracts.
Yeah.
So you have to change many, many hats. In my
Yeah.
case, I had just come to this country, right? I came to the US in '89. Not
Mm-hmm.
that I'd lived for even it was less than a decade. I started my company in '96.
Right.
So I was almost like a kid, out of college
Mm-hmm.
and doing all
Mm-hmm.
these things. So it's a lot to
Mm-hmm.
learn.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have the drive, they say it's just for the top 3%. Entrepreneurship is really for the top 3% because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be multifaceted, risk taking, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
energy, and
Mm-hmm.
all the stars should line up: your education, your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
family situation, money, funding, so much, your network, opportunities. What are the chances of everything happening? That's why many companies fail, right? Before they hit the
Right.
1 million mark,
Right.
they close
Something
shop.
doesn't quite something in those
Yeah.
set of skills that you need, set of things that you need doesn't quite work out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How involved are you today on a day-to-day basis with the technology aspects of your business versus, the growth aspects and needs of your business? How much of time do you spend in one or the other?
Before I answer the question, one thing I want to say: in
Yeah.
1992, my
Yeah.
clients that you can beat me down, but never count me out. So that should be the attitude. You can
Uh-huh.
just get pushed, but you get up, and you
You
fight
get
back.
up, keep getting up. Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's maybe one of my drawbacks. Is that technical stuff still fascinates me, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I fully understand before I can formulate that. I want to know the details.
Mm-hmm.
So even today, my young engineer who are 22, 23, if they're selling me RAG, for example, retrieval
Mm-hmm.
augmented generation, it's a field in itself in the LLM world. I may not code that, but I want to understand how does it
Mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
because what happens is based on that I get more ideas. I
Yep.
can apply I can apply it here. But if I don't know the tech, I don't know how CEOs, without knowing the technology, how they can run company. I'm talking about entrepreneur CEO. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about people who are not entrepreneurs. Uh, I don't know. That's my thing, but it's a drawback also because sometimes you forget that you have to scale up. You have to let other people drive. So it took me some time, but I think I'm in a sweet spot now. I spend about 30 to 40% of my time doing technical work, meaning interfacing with the clients, giving my teams some direction. There are a lot of questions sometimes. I still am the SME, and I give
I
them
see.
some small nudging, and I set the priorities for research. I set the priorities for the projects, and I change the direction also. When I see it, I make the decision as to mean to pivot. Mean to
I
change
see.
now. So that I'm involved, 30 to 40% of it. Remaining
Mm-hmm.
is like high level operations. CO is there, CTO is there,
Mm-hmm.
but I do a lot of the marketing. I'm trying to get to, right now I'm at 40-50% marketing and sales, but I want to get that to 80%. So
I
my ship
see.
can run without me, not that much. I set the direction and move. And marketing is what? Because I should be an influencer, right? People need
Yeah,
to know what I bring to the table. I'm not just a sales guy. I'm a technical guy. I'm talking real stuff, and I can deliver that.
yeah. How, for a team like yours, which is right at the edge of applying this technology in a very important area, and in a year or 2 years you might be applying this in another area. It's so important for your team to continue to innovate, to continue to be creative about what it is doing, and have almost a kid mindset about trying to do this. And do you agree with that? And how do you ensure that occurs in your team, and that they don't get caught up in the day-to-day execution of a project?
I was not that good at it when I started my company.
Uh-huh.
I'm in a very sweet spot now. Even though I am 50 plus, I feel like a 30-year-old when it comes to technology, when it comes to working with my teams. We are a very flat organization. They have access to me. It's open door. They have full access to me. And each Scrum team, they have everything they need to make a thing happen. So we go with 2 week sprint cycles to happen. But every week I meet with twice with my every Scrum team, right? Like, we have about 4 Scrum teams right now doing
Okay.
R&D work, and mostly R&D work. The regular delivery, that's easy. They know what to do. I don't get involved in
Okay.
that, but I'm more interested in the R&D and D and the new innovation piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have about 4 Scrum teams. Each Scrum team can have 2 to 3 people. In some cases, 4 to 5 people max. It won't have more than
Mm-hmm.
that. So I do meet with them twice a week with every Scrum team, and one of them is a demo, meaning every Thursday we have demo. Whatever they have done the previous week,
I
they have
see.
to they have to demo that to me. Something
Okay.
that they're very proud of, and I need to check they're meeting the target or not. It's not enough to. I don't look at their Jira boards and things like that. That my COO does. Other
Right.
leads do it. For me, at a high level, what is the plan for this week? What are you demoing today? And I can tell, right? I mean, when I look at it, I can tell whether I'm the right track or not. That's where
Mm-hmm.
I tune out everything. I am very focused at that time. When they're presenting it, I want to understand every nut and bolt of what they're presenting. And that's when I know if they're going in the right direction. I have to encourage them, or I have to pivot,
Yeah.
and one thing I made it very clear: be bold. You can fail any number of times. As long as you learn, I will fund it for you. I mean, that's the attitude I bring. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I do a lot of research, especially LLMs, because I've learned that, previously, sometimes I used to get involved in a lot of the day-to-day projects. I never got involved in the innovation side of it, meaning was not able to give that much time to the innovation, right? Now, this field is moving so fast. I'm so fascinated. I spend a minimum 2 hours to 3 hours a day researching LLMs, researching what's happening in the world of AI, what's happening AI in life sciences, what are some of the other people doing, how companies are spawning. Do you know there are 12,000 plus companies in the US that are providing AI services? 12,000 plus.
12,000. Right.
Plus, this is most of them were born yesterday, meaning very recently.
Yeah. Right.
They are not, I'm not talking about OpenAI, I'm not talking about Microsoft, I'm talking about new startups.
Yep.
2% company, 3% company, 5, 10, 30, 40, like that.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated with some of the ideas. And so I do the research. And also I know what my teams are working, what pieces they need. Whenever I come up with something that I think I don't have this time to go very deep into a particular area, but I do understand layer one, what it's supposed to do, what it's doing. And I ping them on teams. You need to look at this, you need to look at this. And that excites them. they know that I'm involved. Then they said, yeah, this was useful. This I implemented it already. This is making my life a lot easier.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I really get them charged, but I give them a lot of independence. Once the problem is defined, it's left to them how to do the research, how to direct their scrum team, what to do, how to change the design. I'm meeting them very often. I give them my feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a lot of independence in doing. That really charges them, And I do have a all hands meeting like every 2 weeks. I meet everybody in the company for about 1 hour, 60 minutes. That's a town hall meeting that I give them a quick update as to what. I never prepare for those meetings. I just go. I'm so passionate; it naturally flows. I always exceed the time. I never never wind up earlier than 60 minutes. But I keep them charged up. I ask them questions. I tell them stories. I tell them our success stories, what happened in the last 2 weeks, where we are going, what is the direction, what we have learned. I give them an opportunity to present their new ideas. And also, we have simple competitions. For example, 2 weeks ago, I said, just came to me the idea. I said, I want to know by end of this week, how many tools do you use, AI tools do you use to execute your job, and how do you use it? I said, everybody in the company has to participate in this company, including me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no exception to that. So end of the week, everybody posted in Confluence what all they do. Some of them are using 6 to 7 minimum, and some of them a little bit more. I was the highest because I'm crazy guy. So I used 32 tools, maybe more now. This was
42
a
tools. Okay, yeah.
but I do marketing, operations, sales,
Lots
and
of different things as well. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
I set technology paradigm to tell them that how I use different tools and how I try to automate things. So they get excited about that also. They see me work like this. So these are little things. I'm very compassionate with the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a nasty guy if they are not ethical. That I
Right.
cannot stand. Even if they're not that smart, I'm okay with it. But they
Mm-hmm.
cannot do anything unethical. I make it
Mm-hmm.
very clear. You're
Mm-hmm.
out. You're fired. I don't have any time for that. And they have to be very transparent with me. Having worked for 32 years, have offices in India, multiple offices in the US, traveled world extensively except Africa. I've done work in all the continents. So I think I can understand people better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with blue collar workers, the managers,
Mm-hmm.
CTOs, CIOs. So I have met so many people. My network is
Mm-hmm.
pretty big, so I
Mm-hmm.
can gauge people nicely. So I know whether they are transparent with me or not. So for my CIO and me, it's very important that we give each other's back to everybody. We treat them well, but they have to treat me well also. And being very transparent, and ethics. There's no compromise on ethics, no matter who you are, right? So, and I have fired a few people since I started evaluation at XLM,
I
because
see.
we have problems in that department, right? So
Yeah.
I have definitely fired. So I think these are that's my style. Whatever I do, that's
Yeah.
why I like to be independent. It's just my style, of
Yeah. Yeah.
operating.
Yeah.
I'm not answerable to anybody except my customers, and my employees, because I need to make sure that they are learning. I
Yeah.
pay them well, and they're motivated and they're very
Yeah.
charged up. So,
Yeah.
but all this takes time. We make a lot of mistakes along the way. You
Right.
you tweak, pivot, never give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You really
that's how
come
it is.
across as someone who is a, pretty much a very natural entrepreneur. I mean, basically, that's what you were cut out to do. I think if you had been in another position, in another role, maybe it would have been frustrating for you, because I think, because of your personality. Let's go back a little bit to those initial days. I mean, from what I understand, Nagesh, so far, you have done all of this, right, without really raising any funds from any external sources. You've done it with your own savings. You've bootstrapped your way through. How hard was that to do, right? And do you think you could have or should have done things any differently?
Second question, no, I wouldn't have done
Right.
things any differently. The reason
Yeah.
is this made me a strong person. Maybe I would have made a few more million because I had borrowed money earlier and and maybe grown faster, but no regrets. The reason
Right.
is I'm a happy person. I can
Yeah.
sleep very well. I can sleep very
Yeah.
well. Even today, I can beat an employee who's 25, 26 years in terms of running the marathon, morning
Mm-hmm.
5 o'clock to night 11 o'clock. I
Mm-hmm.
never get tired because energy comes from inside. And I'm very
Mm-hmm.
calm. I get a big project, I don't get excited. I lose a big project, I'm not depressed. I'm always what we call in Sanskrit samatvam, equanimity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always there. It's like this little bit, but I come back to that to
Yeah.
normal line. But all that is help me to go back to your question. How did I start? Yes, I was. They used to call me pig, right? Poor Indian graduate. That's what they used to call me. I called us, right? Everybody, because we didn't have the funds. We really started from scratch, right? And getting jobs also was very difficult in '92 because of the recession in the U.S. It was very, very difficult. Um, so I think both of us worked initially. Then my wife went to school, and that's when I switched jobs. Also, she was at Wharton, and it was expensive. We didn't borrow money even to finance her education. At the same time, I started, but I started small. I brought in some cash right from the get go,
Yeah.
and six months was hard, but then my doors started opening much. I hired employees. My cash flow was much better, and I kind of learned a few tricks. And my relationships got me some projects. No marketing and all that. It's just word of
Right.
mouth
It just came
relationship.
by word of mouth, right?
Yeah. So and learned a few things along the way. Never, I've never had a year where I've lost money. So that tells you
Right.
that it was
Yeah.
okay. It was
That's
okay.
amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, in effect, maybe I could have gone and sought some capital funding, um, but I think I'm in a better position now, even though it kind of got delayed.
Yeah.
Uh, my relationship with everybody, customers, the opportunity I see, the technology side. So I think I can see that really working well. Everywhere
Mm-hmm.
there's a change in my company, and there's more
Mm-hmm.
energy coming in. So I think it's paying off a little bit late, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm able to sleep well and keep the ship, keep the light turned on.
You mentioned something which is very interesting. You mentioned how you were able to go through lots of things in your life or in your career, but maintain a sense of calm, stability, equanimity, right? You called it samatvam.
Yeah.
uh, I know that you are a student of Hindu scripture, right? You have done a lot of studying of the Gita and the Upanishads. How has the study of these ancient Indian texts, and in fact the Gita as well, influenced you, Nagesh, as the entrepreneur in your day-to-day life today?
Um, I started becoming a student of Indian scriptures, my heritage, right? I would say around 2005, 2006, 2007, that time frame. And it was because of my wife. It is, they say, right, when you turn around 40, there's always a crisis, midlife crisis. Maybe it hit her. I don't know whether it was a crisis or not, but she pivoted to saying, I need to really find out more about um, what we call Vedanta, the spiritual side of Indian philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she started digging a little bit more than me, and she was sharing everything with me, and I got very interested. So we were a team together, and we started following the Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who is also one of the teachers of. He's no longer there, features of Prime Minister Modi, Narendra Modi,
Okay.
and he's a great spiritual teacher, Vedanta teacher, one of the best minds the world ever had, India ever produced. So I was very lucky to grow up in his ashram in Salisbury, Pennsylvania, because
I
I
see.
lived about hour and a half. So we spent a lot of time in that, and it's basically they take care of your spiritual journey. They kind of guide you the old fashioned way. So the goal is not the religious side. It is 95% spirituality, maybe 5% religion is there in terms of the way we worship and things like that, but mostly it's about understanding what Indian spirituality is all about, starting from scratch, like very basic, and then kind of building on it. All this is in the Gita, and Gita
Mm-hmm.
is a construct coming from the Upanishad. So
Yeah.
I kind of knew all this, but I never knew the content. I never knew how to interpret them. So I started becoming serious about it. So was a student of Gita, then moved on to the Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and a few other texts. So as I was reading it, I understood, at least to some extent, I understand how one should lead a life, while we're alive. And enlightenment is not something that happens after you die. It happens alive, meaning you are a learned person, you are a wise person, right? That means
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with your academic achievements, your professional achievements. It is to have that inner calmness and the happiness, which is light, right, in you,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what happens around you. There's always a
Mm-hmm.
difference between you, the real person, and what's outside you, the world. right?
Yeah.
So that is what I'm still learning, I'm still understanding it. And that makes you a better businessman, better husband, better father, better teacher, better employer, every walk of life. I apply that everything every time I do any of my transactions. So that has made me remain very calm. I sleep well no matter what's happening around me, and I'm able to focus. I'm more innovative today than I was 20 years ago. Definitely, no doubt about
Wow, that's incredible. Yes.
it. Yeah, the definitely the calmness gives you're very creative, very innovative.
Yeah.
And there's no
Right.
fear. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. How is Nagesh from 20 years ago different from the person we see today?
I would say I'm a different person. Every 10 years, I think I've changed. I mean, roughly, every 10 years I've
Yeah.
changed. Today, mainly the Indian spirituality has influenced me. My thinking, my approach to life has completely changed. And my goals are different in life.
Hmm.
Even though I run a company, I'm a capitalist, right? I'm part of the system,
Yeah.
and I'm a for-profit organization. But that's just a small portion of Nagesh. The true Nagesh is more on the spiritual side. So
Hmm.
my journey is more very strong on that side. It helps
Hmm.
also because they are not separate. They are
Yeah.
one in the same. But you do it for a reason. You do it because you do it. What they say in Gita is that is the journey is what's important. You set goals, you plan. The journey is important. Never worry about the result. If you worry about the result, you're never going to be happy.
Hmm.
So they call it the prasada buddhi, meaning whatever is given to me, I accept it, no matter what it is. It may not work for you. You think it may not work for you, or it might work for you, but you go with that equanimity. No, I just take this. Now let's go to the next step. Do the same thing all over again. So that's what Gita teaches you. I apply it. I sincerely apply it, and that makes me stronger than ever. The end
That
result
is
doesn't
such
bother
an
me. Yeah,
important lesson. That is a very important lesson, I think, and I agree. That is one of the fundamental lessons that the Gita does teach us: is not to worry about the fruit, but worry
right.
about the process. Yeah, and I certainly feel that that is very valuable to use in life as well. To focus on what you're doing as opposed to like what you're going to get out of it at the end of it.
Yep.
Um, 10 years from now, where will you be, and where do you think XLM would be if you got everything right?
How I measure my success in the next 10 years is I want to have a village of XLM village somewhere in the boonies in India, where it's just trees, nature, but a village that has everything, meaning all the employees live together, everybody gets their house, their
Yeah.
own plot of land. We do
Yeah.
farming there, we teach our kids there, we worship there, we learn spirituality there, help each other, and also help all the people around us, meaning all the small villages around us. Because if you look at Zoho, the founder is doing, Sridhar Vembu, he's doing that today. I don't know his spiritual background, but I know he's a very successful billionaire who has done that, in India, because he went back to where he was born in Tamil Nadu, and he successfully done it. He takes people off the street and makes them software programmers, and he's operating from his native place right now, right? And he is a billionaire, one of the first few billionaires probably who's still they're private, they're not a public company.
I see.
So he's my inspiration. So if I can do the same thing, but for me, that spirituality is very important. Not just me, everybody around me. If I can influence them and give them the same energy, so that their their approach to life also changes. They're calmer, happier, and they treat everybody nicely, and also achieve much more than what they would have achieved without this. So financially, I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
that is my 10-year plan. If I'm successful, I think I can do it, you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'll definitely try. If I can do it, that's
Yeah.
my success.
I mean, I think, just when you first started to answer the question, it sounded in the beginning a lot like corporate campuses in the US, where, you have a place of work, but you are really going for much more than a corporate
Much,
campus. You're going for a village where people are living together, and experiencing not just work together, but life together,
life
which
together.
is, and just and I think that speaks to your integration of your spirituality, right, with your work. So
Right.
that's very consistent with your dream 10 years
Yeah.
out as well.
You can't really separate, right? They
You
say
can't
work is
separate.
work is worship. So If you can't put your heart into what you do, you're never going to be happy. You have to be like, this is God's work. I'm doing it. So that's the attitude you should have, and you'll be very successful. And you'll be happy at the end of the day. You never feel tired. You never feel tired. It's nothing to do with your physical. It's nothing to do with physical. It's all about mental strength. They say, right? Athletes, it's 90% mental, 10% physical. They're strong people, I know, but it's a mental ability to not give up, no matter what happens. They get up, they work hard. That's why they're very successful. Very few people can be these world class athletes, correct? Because
Absolutely agree.
mentally they're very strong. Mentally they're very strong than physical. You know.
That is absolutely true, and I think that is a great place for us to bring this podcast to a close. Nagesh, I think this was such an incredible experience speaking with you. I know we've had conversations before this. Every time I speak with you, I'm always just infused with your incredible enthusiasm and passion, and also everything that you have achieved is phenomenal. Thank you so much, Nagesh, for sharing time with us. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Madhur, thank you and namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah.